Okay, so here we are with part two, and we're talking about criminal investigations. And there are two primary portions to an investigation. There's the preliminary investigation and the follow up investigation, which you see that I have here listed in bold. Um, so, um, our preliminary investigation involves discovery crimes and involvement crimes. These are going to be things where somebody has either discovered a crime or they've been involved in a crime, and at any rate, because of one of these two reasons, the crime becomes known to law enforcement. And so you'll have patrol officers who respond to the scene, and they will begin the investigation. Um, we also have crime scene contamination, which is a big thing that everybody should be concerned with, because there is unavoidable contamination and then there is avoidable contamination. Um, and for our purpose here, contamination, we're not talking about, putting poison in the water. We're simply talking about introducing foreign matter into a crime scene. Okay. So the thing is, there's unavoidable contamination, which is, um, you know, officers are dispatched to a call of a man who's just been shot. Whenever they arrive, he is unresponsive, not breathing, no pulse, but he's still warm. So they begin CPR. EMS arrives on scene and begins doing what they do. And so you have all of these people in here, and then the body is taken away and removed from the scene, and then eventually turns into a murder investigation or whatnot. And so you have all of these things, all of this foreign matter that's introduced into the crime scene by the paramedics and the fire department and the responding patrol officers. It's not that they intend to contaminate the crime scene, but they have to um, participate in their life-saving measures. And so in doing so, they introduce foreign matter to the crime scene. Okay, so that's kind of an example there of the unavoidable contamination. And then we have avoidable contamination, which is going to be whenever you have somebody that's on a murder scene inside the tape and they're smoking and they flick their cigarette butt inside the crime scene. Now, as a general rule, you don't want to smoke or chew or anything like that on a crime scene, but it does happen. You know, um, people will have their nicotine withdrawals, and sometimes, excuse me, sometimes you can't get outside the tape. But whenever you can't get outside the tape and you just absolutely must light one up, make sure not to put the ash um, anywhere that's going to contaminate something like DNA evidence or bodily fluids. Um, and additionally, don't flick your cigarette butt. Keep it in your pocket. Um, flick the cherry if you have to, again, into a place that's not going to contaminate something, and then stick the butt into your pocket. That way, you're not leaving your DNA all over the scene. And so then we come to solvability factors, and this plays directly into case management. So, if you have a case where you have no witnesses, physical evidence is limited, you don't really have very many leads, clearly the solvability of that case is diminished. But where you have witnesses and physical evidence and leads with potential, it is your responsibility and your duty as a law enforcement officer to chase every single one of those leads down and to develop working theories and work those theories to a conclusion, whether successful or not, until you are capable of prosecuting the case, or you come to a point where you just cannot go take the case any further. If you've talked to all of the witnesses and nobody saw anything useful, then chase down your leads that you have that come up with potential. You find a receipt for a pizza delivery. Go to the pizza place, talk to the delivery driver, see what he saw. Find out if they had, a camera recording in the dash of their car. Seize that for evidence. Chase it down until you cannot chase it any farther. Again, it is your responsibility and your duty as a law enforcement officer to chase everything to either a successful prosecution or a dead end, whichever one comes first. So then we come to follow-up investigation. And this is once the preliminary investigation has taken place and solvability factors have been evaluated and the case has been referred for follow-up. Excuse me. This would be a continuation of the initial investigation, and it's usually referred to a detective if it's a high-level felony, but a lot of times it could be referred back to the original case officer for follow-up if case management supervisors deem that the solvability of the case is within the capabilities of the original case officer and doesn't particularly require the services of a detective. And then again, here we have our general investigative responsibilities. So the first thing is it is our job to secure the crime scene, to make sure that the victims are safe. We want to record all facts related to the case. We want to take photos, video, measurements, sketches, anything that is relative to this case. I mean, obviously, some cases you're not going to want to make a video recording, but you might seize a video recording. But you want to obtain any and all possible evidence that way, which also leads to the next point there of obtaining and identifying evidence and starting a chain of custody on all evidence, protecting it and then storing it and then processing it. Processing evidence would include, field testing and weighing narcotics, conducting ballistics testing or dusting things for latent prints, things like that. Obviously, you want to identify your suspects or missing persons and human remains if you're working that kind of a case. And then, of course, there will be interview and interrogation at some point. So here is some blood spatter, and I'm going to go ahead and take a pause here and come back with part 3 in just a moment.